Let's check it out and see how we're doing. There we are. Trying to get all ready, loaded to go. I'm gonna sit me down at my father's table, feasting on the life that is offered there. I'm gonna feast my eyes on all that's spread before me. Behold the wonders of his royal hospitality. It's all so graciously shared at the table he has prepared in the presence of my enemies. Today he's serving forgiveness with peace on the side, and of course there is mercy. He serves it sanctified, victory and wholeness for me and for you. Let's go into his table. He wants to be your father too. That is a live little snippet of what you're going to hear with the band in just a few minutes. This is a tune called My Father's Table, and I think it's super appropriate because as we kind of launch into this idea of presence jazz, I'm going to give you a little introduction, and hopefully we're setting a feast table for us to enter into. I'm Julie Lavender, and I live in a place called Dream Farm, and you're actually being broadcast to you from an historic structure, a post and beam barn renovation. And downstairs, we have had some of the best jazz musicians in the world performing in my barn and also recording episodes of my radio show, Dream Farm Radio. And Dream Farm Radio is broadcast on like 40 different public radio stations across the country in different markets. And what I do is I feature the music of synergy jazz players. And I invented that term. It just means jazz music that plays nicely in the sandbox with so many other kinds of music. You know, I love synergies of jazz and rock. Didn't we all experience that in the 70s? You know, with some of our favorite, intense rock bands. Didn't we love how Sting mixed his music with jazz? He brought that. Joni Mitchell brought jazz into what she did. You know, I was forever changed by people like Pat Metheny, and then guitarists like Michael Hedges, who did Aerial Boundaries, and, you know, that whole Winston Hill, was it Wyndham Hill? Yeah. All those kinds of things really shaped music for me, and I could never really go back. So I've been exploring jazz sounds ever since then and figuring out how to work with jazz musicians and put out sounds that I know would take people into different places. So I produced this radio show called Dream Farm Radio. And if you're interested in it, you should go to dreamfarmradio.org, and you can sign up to get free weekly episodes of the show for no spam, all that kind of stuff. But also, Dream Farm is a place where I learned to get over terrifying performance anxiety, which is why I also do live streams called My Fear-Free Living during the week, right here on Periscope, YouTube, Bat Channel, and also broadcasts on Twitter. But I have had for a while a real passion to reimagine music, to worship, and music that lifts the soul, lifts the spirit in worship with the things that I grew up being influenced by, which is, again, jazz music and classical music, because I'm also a classically trained guitarist, and that's what my degree is in, classical guitar performance. And so the repertoire of the guitar really has shaped how I write and how I think about melody and song. And so as I have written through the years as a singer, songwriter, composer, you know, that's very much in my wheelhouse, so to speak, to take those sounds and incorporate them. And on my radio show, I will share those with others. And I would always in kind of worm my way into a show to perform with the musicians that come to see how they could share their synergies with me and bring their music into what I'm doing. And this is kind of the musical world where you can mix it up, where you can make a great sauce together as every musician adds their own thing. Well, over the last few years, I've done some albums and concerts and themed projects based on jazz influenced worship or worship influenced jazz, liturgical worship ideas influenced by jazz sounds to give us and to give me a way to sing and to worship and to communicate about God that is really poetic. So I borrowed from the ancient Jewish prayer book, the Siddur, and of course hymns have been a big, huge thing that have influenced the way I think about meter and sound and poetry and rhythm. In any event, so I've released these albums, I've done this jazz thing, I've continued to write in this kind of synergy jazz vein, but I've wanted to do something where I was putting out there these worshipful sounds to hopefully, what I can say, cultivate soil for some of us who want to worship God a little bit differently than what we're hearing now in some of our traditions. And so I'm always kind of pushing the boundaries. So that's what has been on my heart, and I want to continue to do it. And plus, one day I was walking through Whole Foods and I heard the Lord say, "Presence jazz." It's like, wow, in the vegetable section and everything. And so I knew in my heart that would mean jazz that could host the presence of God in some way and would be a party for others to join in on. So I have kept my eyes open and looked for musicians that I could collaborate with on bringing jazz inspired, worshipful, spiritual oriented songs to life with, not only on my albums, but in live settings, and to kind of create, again, to enlarge our space for worship and for honoring God, for glorifying God. And so I recently, this last year, started working together, collaborating with a bunch of musicians out of Boston, and you're going to see them in this video. And we did some recordings of some songs, and we just tried it out. We thought, let's just see what these guys who are in Black gospel churches, what they would bring to the party, what sounds we could develop together. So we did a series of videos, and I just want to start releasing them and see how they go and see what maybe speaks to you. And so we're going to release the very, very first video of this series. And it's interesting because it's a little bit more of a concert type tune, except for that you're going to find all the lyrics are right there under the screen, so that if you like the groove, you can sing along. And it's called My Father's Table. And I think I see you there, Pepper. It's interesting that that's my first song in this set of kind of things I'm going to release for several reasons. One is I believe God is setting a great table for us of feasts and delicacies in the world of art and music and story and worship. And second of all, I wrote this song during that time that I was relating when Pepper and I talked together early on our scope about perp walks. I wrote this song when we were under some of the most fierce spiritual and personal warfare that our family has ever experienced. And we were daily surrounded by our enemies. And one day the Lord spoke to me and said, "Julie, why don't you just throw a party in the presence of your enemies? I've prepared a table for you. So why don't you just sit down and party in the presence of your enemies?" And so I wrote this song called My Father's Table. It's a little bit more bluesy. It has some jazz leanings and has, some flavors in there. And, this is just a beginning of what I hope will grow into concerts and videos and live type events. So are you ready? Have I given you enough of a little bit of a preview there? Let me just go ahead. I'm learning how to use OBS so I can be one of these super hot, cool producers. I'm going to play you this video, and I hope you'll stick around and watch. It's probably 5 minutes, just a little taste, and then I'll come back around. And maybe you'll let me know in the comments here. I'm unfortunately not able to see things on Restream, but I do have my phone open. So maybe you'll come back around and let me know what you thought and how maybe your ideas and preferences and interests in music might be shaped a little bit different by the sounds in this particular song. Again, it is called My Father's Table. And let me see, I got to do a few little clicks, and then we're going to roll this thing out. serving forgiveness with peace on the side. And of course there is mercy. He serves it sanctified. Victory and wholeness for me and for you. Let's go into his table. He wants to be your father too. There's a celebration sound at my father's table. Songs of joy and laughter fill the air. We dance and we shout around my father's table. There's freedom in this house beyond compare. No expense has been spared at the table he has prepared. Let's all go on in. The party's about to begin. And no expense has been spared at the table he has prepared. Today he's serving forgiveness with peace on the side. And of course there is mercy. He serves it sanctified. Victory and wholeness for me and for you. Let's go into his table. He wants to be your father too. There's a celebration sound at my father's table. Songs of joy and laughter fill the air. We dance and we shout around my father's table. There's freedom in this house beyond compare. No expense has been spared. Table he has prepared. Let's all go on in. The party's about to begin. 'Cause no expense has been spared at the table he has prepared. In the presence of our enemies. In the presence of our enemies. In the presence of our enemies. Guys, I think we're back. Just finishing up the video. This is telling you now where you can get the music. We're back. What did you think? You should be able to, if you're interested in more of my music, you can go to julielavender.com and check out my albums and stuff. But what did you think? How was that? Again, it was a little bit more of a blues type of a thing with a jazz edge. And it was kind of a concert-y type of song. But man, there's some stuff in there, don't you want to sing about he's serving forgiveness with peace on the side and stepping into his table? That's just a little taste. That's just a little sneak peek of some of the music that I'm working on, creating sets of worship that take us in and out of concert-y kind of pieces and into things where we can always cooperate. Yeah, so I'm hearing some of your comments. That's really cool. Excellent. Excellent. I want to give kudos to Don Richardson of Midlife Crisis Productions, who does all of my producing for the radio show and is helping out with the video and is helping me out with these things. Don is awesome. He is the sound surgeon. He always makes me look 30 years younger. Sound 30 years younger. In any event, if you missed it, go back and play the video, because it's just a little slice. It is the table that God has set before us of abundance in art and music and story, in liturgy, in prophecy, all those things. And it's also a song about stepping into feast in the midst of the fiercest part of our battles. So that's why I started that with my Father's Table. And next week, I will probably be bringing you the band version of In Yeshua, which is right off of my Siddur Project CD. And so stay tuned for that. My plan is to give you a little something, drip, 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 every Saturday evening at 7. And so we can kind of, let's see if we can bring some familiarity with this kind of music. And then I'd like to put together, and then I've got some sets, of small sets of this that I want to play also. And then I'm really hoping on continuing my collaborations with some incredible musicians and doing more concerts that I can broadcast, full concerts and things. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. I will see you this coming week. Let the dreams fill your streams. All right? And I will see you soon. Thanks so much for listening, and I'd love for you to share this, and I hope it was a real blessing. Go sit at the Father's table.